feel like this is going to be a thing. Because you know what? My favorite thing to do is to sit with you, to sit and hear what's going on in your life, how you're sifting and sorting, and what's really going on with what you think is wrong. So if you think something's wrong, you're right. And then that's an interesting idea, isn't it? Because the intrinsic condition of the human being is that they want to be right. So even if we're not telling a good story, meaning it has the absence of love, it's not a true story. Truth and love are one and the same. Truth and love feel good. And if we tell a story where we're not, it doesn't make us feel better, it has the absence of truth and love. That means you're kind of lying to yourself. I know that's not exactly the nobody really wants to admit that that's what's going on. But if you're telling yourself something that has the absence of truth and love, we're not getting to the core of what you actually want. It's not moving you closer to the things that you want. It's pushing you from them. And isn't that an interesting idea that we would even do that? Why would we do that? Why? Why would we tell ourselves an untruth and hope to feel better? It's just not, it's not going to be a thing. So when we are telling ourselves something that, like I feel guilty for receiving the death benefit from my parent who worked so hard for it, and they're not here anymore, and all I want is my parent back. Where are we telling a story in there that is maybe not true? Maybe the story is I'm all alone in the world, nobody loves me. It's a deep, dark story. And if you want to believe it's true, it's only because you're perpetuating suffering. And we have been conditioned to suffer doing hard things. I'm such a believer. We are not here to do hard things. Why would we do hard things? And I'm not talking about the things that challenge us on a journey where we discover how powerful we really are. I'm not talking about those kind of hard things. I'm talking about the hard things that work against us, work against our true nature. And when we tell a story that has the absence of love and light, we are working against ourselves, and it is doing a hard thing to try and feel better telling a worse story. So in the scenario, like you have a parent that dies, and you're going to find a way to feel guilty because you think you should. If you think you should feel guilty, you're right. But is it making you feel better? Is it helping? It's not helping. It's not making you feel better because it's not a true story. Now you can say, I am so profoundly sad that my parent's not here anymore. And that would be a true story. So we're not saying it's wrong to admit or acknowledge that you have negative emotions. But we are saying if you tell a story that now I have nobody, that's not true, because nobody is actually a figment of your imagination, because you actually have the power to go out and make new friends, or to, sometimes we get different families as we move through life. Sometimes our families change. And, if we actually get healthy, we may have some family fall away. They're like, I can't hang with you. You're too bright, too shiny. It feels like being canceled, but that's not actually what's happening. It's like they just can't hang in your newness of your health. So they excuse themselves from your life, and you do form other families. You get new associations, new friends, new work associates, families change. And if it's been a divorce situation, then obviously if you find a new relationship, your family dynamic is completely different. But all of that to say, if you're telling a story that's untrue, it makes you feel worse. If you're telling a story that is true, you can at least practice self-acceptance. Like, I'm at a loss for how I feel. The grief is profound. You're right. And even in that thought, it's not making you feel, oh, I'm so happy. Because you're not supposed to feel happy if you're going through grief, right? But to say what really is, to not make the story worse. Does that make sense? Sometimes we tell a story, it's like, oh, this is killing me. Is it? Is it killing you? Or you just have a preference you're just not speaking up about. Can you hear that? The difference is that the stories we tell are sometimes so insurmountable, we never get past it. It's a block. It's the thing that keeps us from getting to where we're trying to go. If we want to be happier, and happy is very broad, right? If we want to be more at peace, if we want to have a little more ease, if we want to feel just a little bit better, then we'll call that happiness. Then we have to listen to the words we say, because our word is our bond. Like, we are bound to live in alignment with the words we say. Interesting. So if you're like, I'm all alone in the world, that was my mom, just so you know. She was like, I'm all alone in the world and nobody loves me. If my mom, this was a great example, actually, she taught me a lot about if you perpetuate the story of I'm all alone in the world and nobody loves me. She had to live in alignment with that. So she made sure that she severed relationships so her story could be true. And so when you think a thought and you believe it's true, whether it's true or not, because my mom had 5 children and we all loved her. You can't not love your mother, no matter how unhealthy they are. You still are that little child that wants to love and be loved, right? But even though she told that story, she had to live in alignment with it. It caused her behavior to be more toxic, more unhealthy, more limiting, more disconnected. She couldn't not be disconnected and tell that story and believe it's true. So when you're telling stories, when you're talking about your life and yourself, what are you saying and how true is your story? Because truth makes you feel good, or at least at peace, at least in the present moment, it brings you here. If you're telling an untrue story, there's probably a whole history that's being drawn from in the past. So let's say somebody's like, you're like, hey, you want to go do something with me? And they're like, no. Or they ghost you. It feels like rejection and abandonment. Is there a hint, a sense, or a flavoring of something similar, not exact, but similar in your past that you're going to come up with a story about, I don't understand why I never get invited. I don't understand why I never am included. I don't understand why I always get rejected. It seems like I'm just always getting rejected. Those words hold the absence of truth. And here's why. Because you're not always getting rejected, because it's not about you when it's concerning other people. Other people get to decide how they're going to live their lives too. They have free agency. They can choose to say no to something that is not of an interest or benefit to them. And there might be other underlying reasons, right? If you're an unboundaried person, that's not wrong. It just is what is, and it can improve. You can do something about that. But if you're unboundaried, there's a really good chance that there's some anxious attachment there too. If somebody says no to you, it might be information for you to go, is there something in me that needs my attention? Or can I just let them make good decisions for themselves? Maybe they're having a bad day. Maybe they've passed judgment that isn't about you. It's about their own past history where they have a hint, a sense, or a flavoring of something that they haven't healed yet. So if you're like, well, I always get rejected, there is something in you that needs your attention, because that's a trigger. That's never going to feel good to say to yourself, I always get rejected. And a trigger is just dysregulation in your body, that maybe you're not safe, because we feel safe with connection and we feel unsafe with disconnection. If there's something going on there, you need to address it, because those emotions are in you. It started with a thought, triggered your nervous system, made you feel a certain way. They didn't make you feel a certain way. You made you feel a certain way. There's this level of accepting personal responsibility for how you feel, because the emotion is in you. So when you're like, oh my gosh, I feel a certain way and it doesn't feel good, that thought, it held the absence of truth and love, because it triggered your nervous system to feel unsafe, which then your body finds the matching emotion to not feeling safe according to that thought, and it feels like abandonment or rejection. You are not a person that would get rejected all the time. You're not, because you're love and light. But if you're not aligned with love and light, there might be reasons why other people prefer not to spend time with you, or why you get your feelings hurt, or why you're reaching out to other people to make yourself feel better. There's a reason for all of that. It doesn't make you wrong or bad or broken, but it does give you information about what's going on inside, that there's some place in you that you have not yet set yourself free. I always like to say that it just feels so good to feel fully alive, to live fully alive. And fully alive means you're just limitless. Like you're reaching your potential in every moment to feel good, right? When people are like, you have limitless potential, it's not really about going and doing. It's about how you feel about you and your perspective, right? When you were a child with an underdeveloped brain, you perceived a lot of things that may or may not have been true about you. And if that was happening and you're like, oh, I'm not very funny, I'm not very smart, I'm not like, right, the six-year-olds, if asked in a room full of 6-year-olds, who's the smartest person in the room, everybody's hand goes up. And then when you get in a room full of 7-year-olds, who's the smartest person in the room, everybody looks around to see who, like, it's Johnny, it's Susie, They will actually start comparing themselves to one another. So at a very young age, you started doing that. And you may have perceived something that wasn't true about you. And every time you repeat that story, it feels yucky. So let me give you an example. 5th grade. We're doing the difference between boys and girls. And my male teacher said to a room full of girls, there are no stupid questions. So please ask all your questions. So little innocent Teresa raised her hand. I'm like, so do you have to go to the hospital to make a baby? Because you have to go to the hospital to have a baby. I thought it was quite logical. It delighted him so much, he laughed his head off. I never asked another question. I never trusted another teacher after that point because I was going to get laughed at. And I had come from a very critical household. My mom was hyper critical of me. Her favorite way for me to be was invisible. She didn't want me around. And when I was, I would get her critical eye on me. So to have somebody in a public setting laugh at me, and this is what my little 5th grade brain was perceiving, that I'm an idiot. I'm stupid. I ask stupid questions. That's not what was happening at all. He was delighted. What an innocent question. It's like, what? He was like, why didn't I think of that? Of course, that would make logical sense from point A to point B. I don't know what he actually said. I didn't hear a word he said after he laughed at me and the whole class laughed. I just shrunk down. I played small. I've been playing small for a very long time. I had to learn not to play small because I had to tell a better story. When you learn to tell a better story, you suddenly get rid of those ideas. I had to go back to that particular memory and ask myself, was that actually what happened? Is that actually what happened? Did I get laughed at because I asked stupid questions? Or was he just delighted at the innocence of my question? But he didn't see it coming. He was a little bit blindsided by how cute I was. That's the story I'm telling. Okay. And he didn't correct the class. He didn't like, hey, wait. That wasn't a stupid question. He didn't say that. I know for sure he did not say that. But whatever he explained after that was he was trying to be careful about saying too much about how to make a baby. He missed the opportunity to change the narrative. He didn't know. He didn't know I came from a critical home. He didn't know. He didn't know that I was super disconnected. Like I felt like nobody loved me at a very, very young age. He didn't know that. He didn't know how it would impact me, right? And we carry these stories with us for such a long time until we suddenly go, wait a minute. Every time I need to ask a question and I don't, I'm in the dark. I don't have clarity, but I haven't asked a question. Why? Because of an experience back in 5th grade. So fast forward, I was in a situation where I was surrounded by amazing fitness professionals and everybody was telling their best story about how their year went. 30-second highlight reel. And my year had gone down the toilet. I lost everything, literally everything. Family, faith, business, health, everything. I was just a shell. And I was like, okay, it's all out on the table. Like I had put on a mask of perfection for so long, telling stories that maybe were a little bit tainted from what was actually going on here. And when I went into this setting, everybody around the round tables at this conference told their best stories. And guess who was last? It was me. And I decided I was going to tell a true story. Kind of by force because my brain was blank. I was sweating from every pore. I was seeing spots in front of my eyes. I thought I was going to throw up. Like I was like, this is the moment the mask comes off. This is the moment that I'm probably going to get booed from the room. This is the moment that when I tell a true story, it will be 5th grade all over again. And the whole room is going to laugh me out of the conference. That was my fear. What is the likelihood that it's ever happened to anybody at any professional conference? Never. It just doesn't happen. Unless somebody's trying to be funny, nobody laughs you out of the room. But my little inner child was so afraid. And so she was like, this is death. This is death. This is the moment I die. I will drop on the ground and die from fear. And what happened was I stood up. I was like, well, technically I'm not actually still in fitness. I am on a journey to discover who I am. I don't even know who I am, oddly. I was 48, 50, something like that. And I was like, I'm just here to learn from everybody and take notes. And I sat down. That's all I said. And the guy running the group stood up and was like, thank you, everyone, for your highlight reels. But that is the reason why we're here. We're going to pull back the curtain and see what's really going on behind closed doors. And you know what? It's as afraid as I was of telling that story. I've got nothing. I'm nobody. I haven't. No, everything's been dismantled. I have nothing to share, nothing to be proud of, nothing to set me apart as being worthy or valuable or loved or anything. Like, I got nothing. But turns out that kind of transparency and telling a true story changed my life. Because from then on, there's no such thing as a stupid question. Like, when you get put in a hot seat to that degree, because it was only hot because my fear was high, when that happens, guess what? Everything else gets better. Because you got nothing to hide anymore. Your authenticity is full on out there. So what have you got to lose? Right? Because telling a better story makes you feel good. And even though it was awful and scary and I almost blacked out in that moment, what happened afterwards was more of an awakening, I think, because he actually stood up and validated that I don't want the highlight reel. I want that. I want the thing that's really happening at your house, behind closed doors, your sleep patterns, your food patterns. Like, is it cookie, cake, ice cream late at night? Like, what are you doing that's preventing you from living fully alive or reaching your full potential is another way to say that, right? Limitless possibilities. It's all one and the same. And so I kind of was handed a permission slip at that event that said, just do you, and don't tell a bad story anymore. And for me, the bad story was, I'm doing great. I'm a high performing fitness trainer. I'm a hormonal fat loss expert. I'm doing something because I need to be valuable in your eyes. I need you to like me for what I'm doing in the fitness space like you are, right? That was a bad story because it wasn't a true story. The true story was, I'm struggling. I don't even know who I am. I took all my hats off. I'm not anything to anybody anymore. And so where do I go from here? Like, that was my true story. And it felt so much better because to not be hiding anymore, what a relief. I didn't have to pretend that I was good enough to belong to a group of high-performing fitness professionals. I could just be me, whatever that was, in a moment. Tears, no tears, like, running and playing, taking a nap. It didn't matter because I was telling a better story. And when we tell a better story, everything gets better. We're like, well, I'm exhausted, I'm tired, and I haven't taken care of myself. Okay. Is that to be judged? No. Do we need to be critical of that? No. Do you need to shame yourself? Absolutely not. But do you need love? Yes. Do you need compassion? Of course. Do you need to just take a break? Yeah. Yes. So telling a better story actually helps you align your behaviors with what you actually do want. It gets you closer to what it is you do want. And how does it do that? Because the story you're telling is better. It's more aligned with who you are and your authenticity. That sends a signal to your nervous system that you're probably safer than telling the untrue story, hoping you don't get found out. So if you can feel safe in your body will find the matching emotion to that level of safety. Maybe it's not super familiar to you, so it doesn't feel super safe to be totally transparent. For me, it was sort of like getting the Band-Aid ripped off. Like, there was no hiding. I couldn't say anything without it being a bold-faced lie about my family's good. I'm a great mom. I'm a good God-fearing woman. I couldn't say any of that because I didn't believe it was true. But I wasn't telling a story against myself either. I wasn't saying I'm an awful person. I was just stating the facts, ma'am. What show was that on? That was an old police TV show. It's just the facts, ma'am. Just the facts. And when you just tell the facts, you are telling a better story. But back to what my mom, her story, I'm all alone and no one loved me. She had to live in alignment with that. Her behavior dictated, or her thoughts and her nervous system dictated her behavior. And so when she went in for open heart surgery, she didn't tell any of us. What? Because she told her doctors, I'm all alone in the world and nobody loves me. What? So when I caught wind that she went into the hospital without telling any of us, I hopped on a plane, flew over there. She had just come out of surgery. She was in the ICU, and as she was coming up out of the anesthesia, she saw me there, and she's like, oh, Teresa, what are you doing here? I ruined her story. I ruined the story she wanted to believe was true because her story would perpetuate the suffering she experienced as a child. And if she could cause herself more suffering than her parents caused her, she was in control. She was in the driver's seat. And 1,000%, what I said at the beginning of this video about the paradox of the human condition is that we want to be right. Even if we're not telling a true story, even if the story causes us suffering, we want to be right about it because it's control. This, I call her up here Controlzilla. When your brain feels unsafe, she's going to like start grabbing at anything she can control. She'll control why other people make her feel bad, why other people need to change so she can feel better. Like she will start controlling everything because she feels out of control and control feels safe, right? So the story she told, she put her in the driver's seat that she could perpetuate the suffering that her parents caused her. Dad was an alcoholic. Her mom pretended to be ill so she didn't get beat by her husband. Like she didn't have parents. My mother did not have parents. She didn't have anyone to say, "You're so sweet." Just to hold her face, and just like, "You're the cutest little thing." Nobody did that for her. They're like, here's a potato, go suck on that. Because they didn't have food. It was the Great Depression. She had holes in her shoes, newspapers in the bottom of her shoes, walking to school in the snow. She was in Pocatello, Idaho. Yeah, it was in the snow. Not uphill, just in the snow. And it was hard. It was hard. But she told the story, even though she didn't have to keep telling the story. She didn't have to keep telling the story, "I'm all alone in the world and nobody loves me." But she did, which only perpetuated her aloneness and her disconnect and her suffering. But in the most unhealthy way, it put her in the driver's seat where she could be in control of the narrative of her life. So when we tell a story that's not true, we are in control of the narrative of our life, for better or for worse, which also means that if it's not good, we can make it good. That's what that means. And how do you make it good? Self-empowerment. So guess what? Tomorrow, 12 noon, Mountain Standard Time, Mountain Daylight Time. 12 to 2, it's 2 hours. It's kind of a fire hose, but it's the 4 pillars of self-empowerment: physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. Because if we're telling a story that is reducing the value and the worth that we have about ourselves, and especially in the eyes of others, and especially our children, whom we do not need to say how we feel about ourselves because they will pick up the energy of how we are about ourselves. Everything changes when you get better. When you tell a better story, when you empower yourself out of those limiting beliefs, out of the places where you are playing small. Because your goal in this life is to live fully alive, whether that means wealth, happy relationships, self-acceptance, individual worth, whatever it means to you. It has nothing to do with outside validation. It doesn't have anything to do with your external world. It has everything to do with what's going on in here, because that's all that matters. What you think about and how it sends that chemical hormonal soup out into your body that tells the rest of your cellular structure, your DNA, that you are safe or not safe. And then you will find an emotion from which you align with that matches the degree of negativity and untruth, unlight, unlove, the degree to which it's not carrying, or it has the absence of love and light and love and truth. Your body will find the matching emotion for that. And then your behaviors follow suit. You'll get out there in the world because you're feeling great. And you get out there and do what you're here to do. You'll use your gifts. You'll simplify it. You'll nurture all those simple parts of you that make you so unique and so perfect. Or you'll decide not to. And you'll tell a story of why not. And the story of why not has the absence of love and truth. And telling that story over and over and over becomes a belief system. And your beliefs that are limiting you keep you from feeling fully alive. I know. It's a lot of information, but I would rather give you the answers to the test than for you to stay small, to not live fully alive, to tell stories that were perceived and an underdeveloped brain in a situation that made you feel ashamed or embarrassed or angry or resentful or irritated. And it all is in the background. Your subconscious is held in the body, right? It's all running in the background of how you operate in the world. And so don't you want to show up in the world differently? Everybody does. Let me just say that. Everybody wants things to be different. Money, relationships, success, lifestyle, you just like body. Everybody wants it to be different. There's something that we would all say, yeah, that could be better. But not everybody signs up to change. Because therein lies the problem. We're stuck in this roundabout loop of overwhelm, overthinking it, not doing anything, not taking action, cookie, cake, ice cream, late nights, can't get up in the morning, so tired, right? That's the loop, right? But if we end that loop, because I give you all the ways to take these pillars of empowerment and write your own empowerment codes, the ones that are going to work for your personal preferences, your psychological sensitivities, and your lifestyle choices. So you're not going to like, oh, Teresa said it works for her, so you're going to do what Teresa does. No, no, no. We're not the same person. We're in different places in our life. We have different goals and dreams. Maybe we have no dreams. Whatever it is, we're not the same. And if we're not the same, guess what? You need to do what works for you. But if I give you the principles and I give you the how-tos, now you've got something to work with. And the other component for the change you want, but not necessarily signing up to become, is in the daily practice. We must recognize the beliefs that are holding us back, because when you can name it, it becomes a choice. It's not just a knee-jerk reaction. If you can name it, which we will, it becomes a choice. And now, if you have a choice, you need to have what you would normally do and the opposite, which is usually the thing you want. And we start practicing doing that, and it comes up in every area of our life, because God doesn't want us to be bored. So he's going to challenge us. He's like, oh, that's what you want to change? Watch this. And all of a sudden we're like, oh my gosh, the level and degree to which I'm practicing that one thing, because we're not going to try and overload your life with 10 things, but just practicing that one thing and becoming a vibrational match, meaning your body and your mind have to agree that it feels good. That's why people don't change. That's why, it's like, I'm going to go on a diet. I'm going to eat less and exercise more. And it lasts 3 weeks to 3 months, maybe even only 3 days. But 3 is the magic number in this equation. Ask me how I know. Yeah. I was in that industry for 16 years. So the 3-month mark, we just stopped doing it because we didn't actually change our belief system. We just overmanaged our body, because Controlzilla showed up. We're just trying to control the outcomes and the narratives, and we're just trying to control other people's perceptions of how we look in our genes. Okay, so be it. But if you want sustainable change, it takes nothing less than a year. That's the ugly truth. Nobody wants to hear that one, right? That it's going to take nothing less than a year of practicing the thing you said you want to be different, but it's who you become on the journey that is so magical that you never would ever go back to being that other person again. You're evolving, you're expanding, and that is what you're here to do. That is what it feels like to live fully alive, is you're here for the expansion. Because what happens when you expand? Oh, yeah. Remember those things called gifts and talents that you were given? That may or may not be developed, that may or may not have been allowed to get out of the box because you've been playing small. Now you can use them to make your contribution, because the two most important things of the spirit is growth and contribution. And if you're not making your contribution, whatever that looks like, it could be watching your kids, your neighbor's kids, so that they can go out on date night. It doesn't matter what that is. But if you're playing small, there's a high chance you're not actually using your gifts, developing them, and making the contribution that you're here to make. So are we living fully alive? If we look in the mirror like, ew, yuck, what? No, that is not a true story. Because you're just love and light. Like, let me hold your face for a second and go, oh, you're just the sweetest. Because that's what we all need. We need to look in the mirror and go, you got me from point A to point B today. You were amazing, right? That's what we need to do. But sometimes we need help, because the stories we tell are so embedded in what we believe about ourselves that we need to move from not knowing that we're doing it to naming it to the new behavior based on how the new belief makes us feel. And then we're practicing every day. Even if your life is overwhelming and jam-packed, we can still pull it back and start with the basics, which is always the body. I know, because the Controlzilla, there's a lot of work up here. But this one, we don't manage her. We love her. We accept her. We give her all the encouragement she deserves, because she has gotten up out of bed every single day. Every single day, and done her best. There hasn't been a single day that you woke up and were like, today I think I will suck. And whether your body was tired or not, whether she was being starved or overstuffed, whether she was being drugged through the mud or been aligned. It doesn't matter. She has gone from point A to point B, and she's helped people, loved children, moved through life, built a career, she's shown up for everyone, probably except for herself, in a lot of ways. But now it's time for her. It's time for you. Little you, your nervous system, lives inside your body. Your past memories live inside your body. Your brain has a lot to do with how your body feels, and those emotions, that chemical soup in your hormones and your nervous system are in your body. When we take care of her, we take care of everything. The only caveat to self-empowerment is it's not a diet. We're not trying to make her behave. We're not trying to drag her through the mud. We're not trying to leave her flapping behind us in our already busy life. We're trying to align with her, be with her, share a life with her, accept her, love her, be nice to her, appreciate her. Because that's how we would want to be treated, right? I want to give you the answers to the test, and the things you're ready to hear are the things for you to work on. Those are the things you're like, oh, there's one. So it's not what I say. I'm not saying I'm so smart that you've never heard any of this stuff. But I am saying that what you hear, because I've asked for God to be with us as we sit and visit, and I'm hoping you ask for God to be with us, because that just makes it all the stronger, and that you will come ready and open to hear something that was an aha for you. And that's where it starts. That's where this is what I'm going to start practicing. You write it down and off you go. You are a grown adult. Do you really need someone to hold your feet to the fire? No. But if you have an opportunity to show up, it's like, I'm here. I'm here. I am here. I'm here. You're building trust with you. You're building personal integrity with you. You're going to do what you said you were going to do. You're going to show up. And I love that. I think that's the most important thing, is that when you show up for you, you're the beneficiary. I don't need you to show up for me. No, because whatever you do with this information, it's on you. You have more information. Maybe this is the right time for you. Maybe it's not, whatever. If you feel too overwhelmed, you're like, I don't know where to start. I'm giving you the opportunity to start. And just to see what it's like to practice one thing and stay consistent. Even if you're like, hey, Monday was awful. Tuesday was better. Wednesday, I fell apart in the morning, but I pulled it back together in an hour's time and it got better, right? And then all of a sudden you're starting to practice every day, all day, and you can pull yourself back in a minute, not wait for next Monday, which is diet mentality, right? And so this is not exercise and diet. I am not giving you exercise and diet. I am going to teach you how to be a powerhouse in your body. And it starts there, but you're just going to choose one thing, and then you can practice it, whether that's on your own or with me. Doesn't matter to me, as long as you show up for you, right? That's what matters. That's why you would be doing it. You're showing up for you. And when you change, everything gets better. Everybody gets better. Your kids will fail miserably if they try and live their life 100% according to what you've told them. But they will succeed 100% with accuracy on everything that you felt about yourself. They will embody that and they will go and live it. So, if you want your children to feel fully alive, then you need to want this for you. Because when you live fully alive, you don't have to say a word. Everybody got the message. They got the memo. It's like, woo, she's doing something. You can tell your kids how you want them to be for their benefit. Like, be happy, be positive, be responsible. You can tell them all day long. They will not be 100% successful in living that way. But the energy about how you feel about yourself, you don't have to say a word. You don't have to say a word. They will, with 100% accuracy, embody that energy and go live it. So if you're like, I suck, guess what? The pattern continues, because your children will take that out into the world. I suck. Which is not a true story. That's how this whole conversation started. It's not a true story. Nobody sucks. We make choices, but where are those choices coming from? First, it was a thought, triggered the nervous system, feeling safe, feeling unsafe. And then you found a matching emotion to the degree to which the thought you had was true or false. And that emotion causes you to behave and react in life to protect yourself. So if we're so busy protecting ourselves, we don't have to say a word to our kids about what we think is dangerous. Rejection, abandonment, those are some of the worst offenders. Those are the most unsafe things to feel. But if they perceive that you have been rejected, like the story of my mom, I'm all alone in the world and nobody loves me. She didn't have to tell me that. She didn't, I rarely heard her say that, but I spent my entire life trying to show her how much I loved her. I wanted her to know she was loved, but she spent her whole life just suffering and would absolutely refuse to accept my love. So just think about that. What does that do to a child who cannot express their love enough? They're going to be anxious attachment, going out into the world, trying to earn love and shoplift, emotional shoplift love that's not being offered freely. They will find people that are withholding love. They will find it because it's what's familiar. Like if you withheld love from yourself, your children will go out and find somebody that feels just like mom. Wow. That's a wake-up call, isn't it? Yeah, ask me how I know. So, all that to say, self-empowerment is all about self-love, self-acceptance. I know self-love is like just so overused, and we're like, what does that mean? Massage and nail polish? Like, what is self-love? It really is a matter of self-acceptance, knowing that your value does not increase or decrease from the moment you took your first breath in the world. It's not the things you do. It's not how other people perceive you. It's how you feel about yourself. When you're a baby, you didn't have any of those polar thoughts about good or bad. You just took a breath, and that was your value. Everybody in the room cheered. You didn't do anything more than breathe. And everybody's like, she's alive. That is where your value is. And everything else is just, busy work. We've just done stuff, right? But your value hasn't decreased unless you have done that disservice to you because you didn't correct it once you became an adult. I know, still us. We still have that in us. And taking personal responsibility for how you feel, it changes everything.